Good morning, lovely souls. Happy Friday. Listen to the woodpeckers. There's 3 of them going around me at the moment. They're kind of like, just a minute ago they were tag teaming. It's almost like they're communicating with each other. Well, I think they probably are actually. Spring is in the air. Very, very early spring. Imbolcas been and gone, the 1st of February. Or the exact date, the actual period of time might extend a little bit longer. And Lavisa Altorn and I had the most wonderful World Tree event that night. And just bringing through this beautiful energy of connecting into the World Tree and how the trees around us serve a very, very similar purpose. Like they have this incredible root system, and yeah, I'm talking about you. got this incredible root system that intertwines and interconnects with each other, and they have their own internet, their own basis of communication that spreads all around the planet. So many times they're well ahead of the game as well. The trees and the plants and the planet itself knows what's going to be occurring in advance, and they communicate and they talk and they hold space. And there's a lot of that going on at the moment. And it's the internet is what I want to talk about this morning. Actually, it's 2023. Things are going to be hotting up as myself and many of the others who are kind of tuned into the kind of expressing information in whatever way it is being presented and coming through. And 2023 is going to bring change. It's going to bring a huge, and I mean huge, wave of awakening. The information that's been given to me is that the level of awakening this year will be very reminiscent to the year of 2020. Now, if you can remember what happened or what was beginning to happen this time 3 years ago, it was the beginning of the whole kind of lockdown palaver, and everybody was kind of seeing these things coming through the media, and there was genuine fear. There was genuine, palpable fear within the field, A, because we didn't know what was coming, and B, we didn't know whether it was true or not, or what the sources were, or what we were going to be expecting. We just knew that change was on the horizon. Now, we've got more change coming, but we're a little bit more seasoned now, aren't we? We're a little bit more awake. There are billions more people on this planet, and I am going to use the term billions. I mean, I know there's 8 billion people on this planet altogether, but a huge proportion of people have woken up now. And as I've spoken about previously, you might look around and see your brothers and sisters in a state of what we'd call heightened awakening, but they're not tuned into what we're tuned into. They're not into receiving messages from the universe or speaking to the angels or working with crystals, although, as far as I'm concerned, if you're not working with crystals, you're missing out. But that's down to personal preference. These people are going to be just doing their thing. Okay, they're going to be living from a more heart-centered perspective. Most of the time they're going to be grappling with their ego. It's going to be almost like that kind of like the cartoon of the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, and then they're both talking. That's exactly what is occurring in many souls around us at the moment. So there's this continual internal conversation with the heart pulling very strongly now. Very strongly. It's an overwhelming tidal force, and the ego is starting to take it's beginning to back into a corner. It's on the ropes. If it was a boxing match, it would be starting to feel very tired. Like you say, you're 10 rounds deep and beginning to flag, and the exhaustions and the lactic acid is settling in. That to me is what the ego field looks like. It's beginning to look very deflated. It's beginning to look like the 3D matrix field, a bit like a shrunken balloon. So the efforts that we are going to have to see in order to wake more people up, and this is why a lot of us are feeling maybe a little bit pensive, a little bit braced at the moment. In order to wake all of these people up, the ones that we're waiting for, you know, we've been kind of tapping our watches now for a couple of years and going, come on, keep up now, surely you can see what we can see. There has to be a pretty drastic change that will occur around us. Now, half of me is, I believe that this change is energetic. Okay, so although we're waiting to see this kind of the new dastardliness to be coming through from the powers that aren't around the world, while we're waiting for this to occur, what we're kind of maybe overlooking slightly is the fact that we are now operating on a unified platform. So the 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D spheres of consciousness that were all kind of intermingled, not really partying very well together, have now been forced into one stream. And as I've described previously, anything that is not in alignment with that stream of consciousness is ejected. If you looked at it a little bit like if you were looking at it from like a spacey kind of perspective, it'd be like a stream of photonic energy, like laser stream, and anything that's not in alignment with the speed at which that stream is traveling kind of gets spat out, a little bit like a surfer kind of being ejected from a tube of a wave when the wave kind of curls over and crashes and all that force is released. So we're seeing that. I think we're going to see a lot of this at the moment. But in the meantime, what's drawn my interest from the internet is, again, the quantity of fear that is being shared amongst people that are on the ascension pathway. And what's really lighting people up in the UK is all of this information about smart cities, 15-minute cities. It's whatever I've told you, I'd be a little bit more candid this year, and I'm going to be. What they've been cooking up in Davos or whatever is going to be, or structurally applied to places around the world. Now, immediately the response to this is outrage, it's anger, it's how very dare you, come and get it kind of thing. And the quantity of anger that is being shared amongst people, don't get me wrong, like the proposals that are being made are very triggering, exactly the same way as the proposals that were made in March 2020 were very triggering. They are designed to ignite people's sense of survival and the prospects of being kind of like living in a constructed energetic cage, so to speak, is exactly the opposite to our natural instincts, the way that we are flowing, the direction of flow for this ascension process. We are going in the direction of sovereignty, we're going in the direction of freedom, we're going in the direction of unification with one another. We are not by any means going to be corralled into spaces where we have no control over our environment. But that's what we're being told is going to happen. So the outrage and the anger that's kind of being passed around is, in my eyes, it's counterproductive. Yes, we always need, I believe, to know what is potentially going to occur in the field around us. So always stay informed, but impartially informed. So we are aware of what has the potential to occur, and that then gives us the opportunity to band together to create a higher frequency to ensure that it doesn't. So this sounds all well and good from an energetic viewpoint, all of us sat around maybe meditating, visualizing this perfect future that we want to live without all of these obstacles. But for the time being, practically these obstacles do exist. So what is the best way to navigate around them? How do we say no to the potential infrastructure being kind of inflicted upon society? Well, in my book, the best way to say no is just to say no, to cease cooperation in any way, shape or form. Now, I've talked about loving non-cooperation, and I did it years ago. If you could bear to do it, kind of flick back through the archives of my library on, I don't know, I think this is even before I started putting videos on YouTube. It was just going up on my page. But loving non-compliance means non-compliance from a point of we're not angry, we haven't been enraged, we haven't been triggered. We are simply, from a heart-centered perspective, saying no. Okay, now no is a powerful word. No is a very overlooked word on the spiritual pathway, as many of us have been through the initiation again and again of setting boundaries, setting space for ourselves, and not being inclined to give too much or having too much taken from us in many cases, because we've been playing the role of wounded healer and all of these other things. But now many of us are learning to say no, and no from a heart-centered perspective is one of the most, it's a powerful statement. And when we all together, I think the midges are starting to come up, when we all say no together with the volume and the kind of the force that is going to be resonating from all of us, that means what it means, what it says. It means everything will come to a grinding halt. So the best way to navigate what is being presented at the moment, instead of getting outraged, getting angry about it, I mean, there's also the prospects of all of this kind of digitalization coming in with the financial system. And again, how much of this do we cooperate with? What I have seen, which is also very counterproductive, is the vitriol which is being directed to people for their potential cooperation with this before it's even happened. Again, we bring this back to centre and we think logically and from a higher perspective how we are going to deal with this, because in many cases we are already dealing with a higher timeline. So we're dealing with a timeline where things that are coming in which are threatening to us simply won't work. And I've described this previously about all of the plans that were made for the 3D matrix were made quite a while ago. They were kind of initiated and put into construction, I'd dare to say even thousands of years ago. So when this particular point in time, this collection, or this grouping of the energies, this unified time stream was going to occur, all of these thoughts and these plans were put in place to prevent it from happening, or at least to contain enough souls from passing into the ascension field so that the matrix survives. There is going to be, as I've said previously, a percentage of people that wish to continue learning at a 3D level. And if you're listening to this, the chances are that you are not included amongst them. We will continue to create on our higher timeline, and anything that is not in alignment with that frequency will simply, it might look like it's going to work, a little bit like, I use again the analogy of lighting a firework in the rain. The firework might fizz and it might spit, and it's like you might get kind of like one kind of effort, like a Roman candle bauble sort of flying out before the firework fizzles out and dies. That is exactly what we're going to be seeing from these efforts to contain the explosion of awakening and higher consciousness around the planet. And in many cases it makes our job easier, it makes our process or our service easier, because these conditions, these presentations, these these things that have the potential to affect our lives, while we are managing how we are going to navigate this information that's being presented, that same information is actually the stuff that's waking our brothers and sisters up. So let it continue. As I've looked at the construction so many times of the 3D matrix, it will do what it is intending to do. It will carry on that pathway until it can carry on no more. And there's still plenty of life left in that old beast yet. It's going to keep grinding on, and it's going to keep on presenting and trying to survive. We're talking about a matter of survival of the 3D matrix. Now, anything within conscious nature will attempt to keep itself alive. It will attempt to survive to the utmost, and that is what we're seeing. So all of these efforts to contain our awakening, our ascension around the planet, are simply the actions of survival via the matrix to prevent. Because once the awakening becomes a planetary matter, that potentially means the end of that era. And I think what they failed to understand is, obviously it's not the complete end. We are just simply separating our energies and choosing to live at a higher state, in a higher consciousness. So again, from us, I believe it requires compassion. It also requires understanding for us to be able to look at this situation and understand why others are acting in the way that they are. It's fear. Okay, fear has been the driving force. It has been the food, and it has been the control mechanisms of the 3D matrix for thousands of years, since the fall of Atlantis, which was 10,000 years ago. So be, again, as I've said before, compassionate for your brothers and sisters who may be living in fear at the moment, and understand that the actions of someone living in fear might actually be presented to you as hostile. Okay, so we don't have to tolerate that hostility. We can set our boundaries, but how we respond to it is very much down to where we are, how much healing we've done, how much of the shadow work that we've kind of integrated within ourselves, and how we are actually coping with the world around us at this particular time. So all of this oversharing, or I'd call it angry sharing of what is occurring around the world at the moment, it serves no purpose apart from to trigger others. And it's, yeah, okay, it might trigger us into action. And there's one thing I want to talk about, very much sort of like with the warrior energy that's rising up. One of the most magnificent things about the past 3 years is the re-emergence of the divine warrior energy. You know, we've talked many times online and in class about, like, where are the blokes, where are the divine masculine? Well, they're beginning to step up into their roles now, very much, but they might not necessarily, as I said previously, be sat next to you in a unicorn workshop. They are simply anchoring in that divinity. And these souls that are holding this divine masculine warrior energy, they will not be triggered. Okay, they will not be goaded into violence, into explosions of unnecessary anger. They will manage that and turn it into something which is constructive. So looking at that particular energy which is rising up amongst us, there are always going to be solutions and almost kind of like safety mechanisms in place to make sure that we kind of don't get swept up and swept along with this tide that's going on. It is simply going to fizzle out. It is going to dissolve before our eyes, but it requires us to be as uncooperative as possible in the most loving manner that we can possibly manage. And I do believe there's going to be a re-emergence again of the kind of what we'd call like the protest gatherings, which are going to be occurring particularly in the UK. I think they're earmarked for the 18th of this month, where people gather together in peaceful unity and simply say no. Now, in many cases, there's been a lot of criticism of these protests because they're saying, well, that's like begging your masters for scraps from the table, and yeah, that essentially asking a power to give you something back is acknowledging that as a power that has a kind of a stranglehold over you. But I see these gatherings as a unity of like minds, of strength, and an opportunity to actually meet other people on the same pathway. So, you know, let's all get together if we need to in large and noisy and lovingly uncooperative groups, if that's what needs be, and just simply show that we are going to live in love from a higher perspective. I am living love. That again, if you hadn't heard me speak about that previously, that's Diana Cooper's affirmation that was given to her by Archangel Chamuel, the archangel of the pink ray of love. I am living love. So if ever you're kind of knocked out of check and you want to kind of return to that loving center, repeat that affirmation over and over again. I am living love. So to conclude today, I do believe that we are going to be either seeing this re-emergence of situations that are going to be triggering people awake, or it's simply going to occur because the energy says so. Okay, the energy of 2023 says that people are going to wake up. There is no other viable option to be on this energy timeline, this energy stream, having chosen this particular pathway to stay asleep. It's no longer possible. The buffer zones are off. So I'd also like to give a shout out for my friend Alice Heath, who is going to be presenting online for Jackie White tonight as Conscious Cafe, and I'll put the link for that event in the wording underneath. But do go along and give it a watch if you are feeling inclined to do so. There'll be some beautiful conversations involved there. And I'm back on the 7th. I know I kept on saying the 6th previously, but I am working with Lord Katumi and the Brotherhood of the Golden Robe on the 7th, which is coming up now. It's 4 days away. So see you there. Sending you all lots of love, and I'll be back on Monday. Bye.